I'm Jim Collison, live from the Gallup campus here in Omaha, Nebraska. This is Gallup's Strengths Spotlight, recorded on January 15th, 2015. Strengths Spotlights are live interviews that Gallup conducts with individuals, teams, or organizations who are using the Clifton StrengthsFinder and its 34 themes to impact the community and organizations around the world. If you have questions, please email them to us, coaching@gallup.com. And don't forget, of course, to visit the Gallup Strengths Center. That's just gallupstrengthscenter.com for all your StrengthsFinder resources and training needs. You can also catch this video as well as both streaming and downloadable audio for all of our webcasts. And if you're catching this for some reason, you didn't know we had webcasts, we do have some 70 to 80 webcasts now available for you at our StrengthsFinder at the Gallup Strengths Center site for us. Just head over, the best place to go, coaching.gallup.com. Today I have Mark Pogue with me. He's a Senior Director of Strengths Education here at Gallup. Mark, I want to welcome you to another Strengths Spotlight. We're going to call this StrengthsQuest Part 2. We spent some time doing a video together, 3 or 4 weeks ago. That's available at the Strengths Center YouTube channel. We're going to cover Strengths Center Part 2. Welcome back, and thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Jim. Yep, appreciate you inviting me back, and looking forward to our conversation. This will be fun.
You bet. I think we've got a great opportunity in this episode to kind of dig into the website that's found, StrengthsQuest.com. Very easy, all one word, StrengthsQuest.com. I'm going to flip my screen over so everybody can see that, and let's spend a little time, maybe you can give us a little history. Start with the site, what was it intended for, and then we'll dig in a little bit.
Okay, sounds great. Yeah, and I, as he's flipping over there, I think this is the StrengthsQuest site just provides us a great kind of outline, really, of explaining what is StrengthsQuest, what we're doing with it, whose needs it addresses, and so it'll be a nice visual, helpful visual for us to be able to talk through this.
You bet. Let's dig in.
Okay. All right, so we're at the home page. So let's go ahead. We've got this little tile flipper thing. If you go up and hit that, just hit StrengthsQuest for me there, Jim. There we go. Let's see, where am I wanting to get to? You know what, Jim? Maybe let's go ahead and try. Go ahead and try the student tab. There we go.
There we go.
Yeah. That's what I'm looking for right there. So
there we go.
Yeah. So you know, for those students that are have taken StrengthsFinder through StrengthsQuest, what they'll be able to do is they'll be able to click on that My StrengthsQuest tab, and My StrengthsQuest, you know, basically is the place for them to log into and then have the opportunity to see their reports. And unless we logged in, we wouldn't be able to see that right now. But basically, it's a site for retrieving the signature themes report. There's a brief definition report of your 5 themes, and then as well the insight and action planning guide, the same report that's available on with the 2.0 StrengthsQuest 2.0, or excuse me, StrengthsFinder 2.0 publication, as well as any code that you'd get off of the Strengths Center site. In addition to that My StrengthsQuest tab, the other thing that it does make available is that for educators, if you have a login for StrengthsQuest, which just everybody would if you were purchasing codes to use with your students, then you can log in with your email and password, and you can also ask for permission to get an administrative site to StrengthsQuest. And so what we've built, just to make things a little bit easier, we were just getting a lot of requests for folks for reports, etc. And to make that a lot easier, we basically put the control back in the hands of the educators that were administrating, managing the strengths programs on their campuses. And so there's a pretty simple administrative site that allows you to take a look at each of the business unit IDs or the group of codes that you'd purchased at any particular point in time. You can print reports out of there. If you have access to 34, then you can print 34 reports. Otherwise, you can print the signature themes or insight reports off of that, and actually have reports prepared for students when they come into the classroom, if you want to do it that way. You can also create, CSV files that you can dump larger amounts of data if you want to start, taking a look, for instance, at some of the statistics that might be associated with the codes of students on your campus taking StrengthsFinder, just like we have here on the ticker at the bottom of the page. For StrengthsQuest, you can start to accumulate your own numbers and see, oh yeah, we in fact do have a lot of folks with adaptability, and you will. That's one of those things that we've seen with our student sites, especially those that are heavy on students that are more in that millennial range. They're younger students. We just see them having a lot of adaptability. We've had a lot of conversations about why that's the case. But for whatever reason, our student populations tend to have a little bit more adaptability than our overall database would. We've had conversations or questions about whether or not adaptability is a theme that we beat out of people by the time they get into their 30s or 40s. I don't know for sure. People become more fixed and rigid by the time they're older. We've also had conversations that culturally and just in the age and times that a student is growing up in, that there's the possibility that adaptability is a little bit higher for whatever reason. We don't know for sure, so I'm not making any declarative statements about that. But there is a lot of interest in just the number of students that have adaptability in their top 5. See, there it is, 496,318 out of the 2 million database, so almost an eighth? No, a quarter, almost a quarter of the students that participated in StrengthsFinder through StrengthsQuest have adaptability in their top 5.
Mark, one of the questions we get from the coaches all the time is that 2 million that's there. Is that separate from the 11 million that we see on the Strengths Center, or is that included as completes for StrengthsFinder?
Yeah, that's a total. So that 2 million is a part of that 11 million.
Okay.
Yep.
Subsets. Perfect.
That's correct. Yeah. And the other thing that you have to recognize is that it's not purely students. So when we look at these overall StrengthsQuest completes, there are a lot of educators that have participated in StrengthsFinder through StrengthsQuest, and so it's not pure or perfectly a perfect sample of students. And the only reason that I say that is that it might actually adjust the numbers around learner and input. If you can scroll over there, let's see what learner looks like on the completes there, Jim. Because quite frankly, educators are a self-selected audience, and there you go, 460,000 of them, and input pretty high too, I'm sure. Yep, 419. Both of those they would probably adjust down a bit in the overall database. I'm not making the claim for sure because I haven't looked at it lately, but probably would adjust down a bit just because we have a lot of educators that also participate in StrengthsQuest or StrengthsFinder through the StrengthsQuest site, because they're participating in like maybe a developmental or educational program, informing them about the programs that they're doing for students. And as a result of that, it probably pushes the numbers of learner and input. I could probably go further than that with some of the other strategic thinking themes and get all our history professors collected together under the context theme. I know that sounds like it sounds like a cliche, but it is so true. Every time I get into a classroom with educators and especially professors that are history professors, I mean, they've got context in their top 5. It's just kind of, it comes with the territory, which is kind of fun because it does kind of confirm, the energy around that particular theme in making sense of our past, and how you could see a history professor finding themselves enamored with that kind of information and kind of just really enjoying immersing themselves in the past. So that's the My StrengthsQuest tab. If we moved on and took a look at the it might be helpful. Well, let's take a look at the Students tab. We could do that. Or is that what we're on right now?
Yeah, that's where we're at.
That's the one we're on right now. So let me give you some more about what's available there. Let's see. There's actually those tabs are actually just kind of one-pagers that would help a student kind of kind of be thinking about their strengths in the context of that topic. And there's usually a chapter associated with it and reference, like it is in this one for academics down there. Chapter 7 would be referencing the HTML or PDF version of the book, of the StrengthsQuest book, and so there's more in-depth material and information. Oftentimes there's action items associated with that, and so those, yeah, it tries to drop you back in and get you to log back in. But those tabs are basically giving you a one-pager to think about strengths in light of the strengths in light of those particular topics. Let's see. And then let's go ahead and jump to the Strengths Educator tab. I think I'd probably. So taking a look at the tabs on the top of there, the one that I would go to is that Resources tab. Click on that one there for a second. Let's see what we got. Okay, so understanding that we have a lot of educators with the learner and input themes, we have not held back in loading on a bunch of different documents for folks to explore. So there's just all kinds of resources for folks to be able to dig into and take a look at. You can see some of the ones that are referenced under this Getting Started tab, and these are just the basics. You can get a copy of the theme quick reference card in PDF format that is really nice to print, especially if you're holding an introductory session to strengths for educators and you want them to have the opportunity to see what the 34 themes are and just begin to acquaint themselves with the StrengthsFinder profile and the different themes that are associated with that assessment. So that's just an easy document that's there to access and to print for different. The StrengthsQuest guidebook was written by former professor and provost for let's see, Chicago. I'm trying to think of the school that he's with. Chicago Loyola. Larry Braskamp. Larry has actually taken a position as the president of Elmhurst College there just outside of Chicago now in his retirement. But he wrote this document for us a few years ago and just tried to bring an educator's voice and perspective, or a researcher's perspective, especially one that Larry has just had a long career involved in student development and researching student development, and so he brings a nice voice to that. So if you're needing not necessarily a scholarly article, but one that not with a lot of references in it, but at least one that was written by an academic from an academic's perspective on StrengthsQuest, that's a nice one to pull up. And some other useful tools that I think would, especially anybody that's just getting into exploring using StrengthsQuest on a broader scale with their students on the campus. This is a great set of documents. Go ahead and click onto that Curriculum and Activities tab there, Jim. Again, this tab has a ton of documents that could really help you even just build your own training. There's all kinds of PDFs that are actually in activity form, and there's a separate PDF, obviously there, one for career activities, specific to career activities. So if you're delving into StrengthsQuest, you bought a few codes, you had a few students, you have maybe students in one particular class that you have going through StrengthsQuest, and you're looking for some resources. Here's a great resource to go to print off some different things that you might be able to do with your students. Again, we emphasize the fact that we are encouraging folks not to just think about StrengthsQuest and StrengthsFinder as a one and done, as it being just a kind of a fun activity that you do where students would just take the assessment, look at the report, maybe have a conversation about it and be done with it. But instead, we're really encouraging folks to think more along the developmental side, where folks would really put together a plan for having multiple touches and subsequent interactions with strengths in a variety of settings because the closer you get to that strengths development, more of an implementation that feels like strengths development with those revisiting multiple touches, students are just going to benefit much more so from it. And in fact, what we see is that if we move to beyond identification and we move to strengths development, what we'll see is that we'll see students that are indicating that they have higher levels of hope and higher levels of engagement as they think about themselves as a student. So that one, that's really important for us to make sure that it's that the strengths program is developmental in nature. And let's see, another one that I'd love for you to take a look at, or Jim, for you to, kind of down there at the bottom of the page, maybe a little bit further down. Yeah, go to that StrengthsQuest activities workbook. I might have mentioned this in the last one. Boy, it might take a while to. It came up really a lot faster than I thought it would. I don't know how many pages exactly are in this thing. I think it's maybe 200. It's huge. This is a huge resource. We actually had a gentleman that was, look at that, close to 200.
Yeah, close to 200.
All the way down to the bottom. It's close to 200.
192.
There you go. Free. There's nothing free in this world anymore except the StrengthsQuest activity workbook. And we had a gentleman, let's see, Dr. Richard Hogriff, that actually came, and we got him a desk at Gallup one summer several years ago. It's probably been, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago now, and allowed him to just have a full summer to put together all of these activities, a lot of which are ones that originated with Gallup, but as well there's a bunch of them that were contributed by educators, and he just agreed to kind of be the editor of this gigantic workbook. It's nice because it is divided into those three steps that we hear reiterated in a variety of ways, whether it's affirm, develop, and apply, or name it, claim it, name it. Yeah, exactly. And so the activities are organized in that format. So if you need an activity for any one of those particular areas, you can go straight to that section and read through that. Typically, there's an introduction to how to do the activity. There's typically a PDF that you'd reproduce and give to your students, and then there's also usually some kind of reflection or format for reviewing what happened. So lots of activities there. Would encourage folks to take a look at that and recognize that it's a pretty robust resource for educators that are building strengths programs on their campus. So let's go to the next tab. Let's go back, or excuse me, just go to the articles. We've done our best. I don't know that we've updated these lately, but we've got a lot of articles that we actually have that are specific to higher ed, maybe written by educators. They might have been articles that appeared in our StrengthsQuest newsletter that we send out. But then as well, we also have articles that appeared in the Gallup Business Journal. And I don't know if we talked about this last week. I kind of wish we didn't call it the Business Journal, because that scares off folks that are educators. Oftentimes, if they're not in the business college, are thinking that this isn't a resource that's going to apply to them. But there's an awful lot of good writing. Many of the articles were written by folks like Jim Asplund and our senior scientist for StrengthsFinder, or Jim Harder, and just a lot of great articles in there. There's also some of those articles that we collected from Chip Anderson. Some of the writings that he had that weren't included in the StrengthsQuest book, but just a lot of good resources that are specific to strengths that, certainly if you are a career advisor or you're teaching a career class on your campus, make sure you take a look at the resource, some of these articles, because I think you'll find some really good resources that you might want to reprint and or at least assign to students to read about and think about in terms of the application of strengths within organizations, because that's what a lot of those articles are about. Studies that we've done, that we have managed in different organizations, how they applied strengths in a particular way, and then the results of those studies. and then coming back and reporting to them in this article format. So I'd go take a look at that. And real briefly, go ahead and hit that research tab as well, Jim. So let's see. Oh, there's the tab that connects you to the Strengths Insight newsletter. That's that newsletter that I was talking about a little bit earlier. And then, okay, the technical report is on here. We talked about this a little bit last week. Don't click on it. My eyes glaze over when I see it myself. It's got a lot of tables, and so if you're interested in specific information about correlations, etc., I definitely take a look there. Let's see. I'm trying to think if there's anything else here that. Yeah. Nope. I think that's about it with that one. Let's see. One that there's one I need to kind of dig up that I know that we have available to you on the StrengthsQuest site, and that's the we have a research review that was prepared by Dr. Lewis at she is right now she's at Bethel University up in the Minneapolis area, and I wanted to reference it because I think it's also, especially if you're on campus and you're trying to you've already bought in, you've had an opportunity to experiment with strengths in a classroom or in a some kind of developmental opportunity for students, and you've had good positive results, and now you want to extend the reach of that. You want to begin to build on that. Usually on a college campus, what that means is that you get a lot of questions and a lot of folks that are really wanting to vet whether or not that's a worthy endeavor, whether or not it's worth resources, etc. And so this research report was basically one that I think reviews at least 10 different studies that were done on college campuses that were measuring the efficacy of strengths-based programming, strengths-based development programs on campus in terms of their impact on students. And I believe they're all, many of them were dissertation topics, and so they're, they did a pretty good job on the research. None of the research was done by Gallup. It's not us tooting our own horn, but instead us just kind of putting it out there and allowing for educators to experiment with it in a variety of different fashions and different implementations. So you get a pretty good, I think you get a pretty good, clear, accurate, and fair representation of the impact that strengths can have on students. And out of that, in the introduction to that report, to Lewis's document, Shane Lopez gave an introduction where he talked about what he calls the 4 strengths rules, and basically in reviewing all of the research in the report, he came up with 4 generalizations that he felt like were pretty accurate to the successful research projects that had been done within the context of that study. And they include these. One is that, and I've already mentioned it, is that knowing your strengths is not enough. Completing the StrengthsFinder instrument is just a starting point, and that was really referencing back to strengths identification versus strengths development. So we have to make sure that folks understand that they're not really going to see a lot of results if, in fact, all they're going to do is give folks a code and allow them to take the instrument. It's not going to hurt them, and we'll be glad to take your money and allow you to get that code and allow a student to take it. But we really want to see something happen with this on a campus, and that's why the StrengthsQuest site is there. That's why all those resources are provided to you without there being any additional charge to that. That's why we have quite a bit of professional development that we provide, and we'll take a look at that here in just a moment as well. But that first acknowledgement is it's not enough to take the assessment. I mean, I remember when I took it myself, 15 years ago, I was completely enamored with the results, and I loved reading the report. But there's some important things that need to happen immediately following that, and let's see, at some point, Jim, we might want to figure out how to log me back in just to be able to kind of show that My StrengthsQuest site, because what we've built is we built a set of chevrons across the top that really guide students, even on their own, but certainly even better within the context of educators kind of proctoring that or managing that process for students. But we have a set of chevrons that go across there, and it just steps students through those first set of activities, things that we would really, we've known to be successful in helping people kind of embrace their strengths and begin to figure out how to apply them. All of those are just kind of lined up right there at the top of the page. So, and I'm already logged in. So there's those chevrons that I was describing. When a student does log into their StrengthsQuest site, this is what they'll see every time. This is kind of the home page for the My StrengthsQuest site, and it'll always open up under that Strengths tab. And so then they'll have their 5 themes always available to them right there on the left-hand side. But again, we've got these chevrons at the top, and it starts with, obviously, you want to print your report, so you have the opportunity to take a look at the reports that are available, and there they are. And then as well, we'll move on. And again, it's not that sophisticated, but it just gives you some good first things to do. So one, you have Share Your Top 5, which basically is an email window, and it drops it automatically pastes your top 5 strengths and your signature theme report right into an email. And allows you to share it with some folks. And that's one of those first steps we encourage folks to do. We want them to get some affirmation. We want them to get some feedback from some people that know them well. So, if they're looking at the report and they're like going, really? I don't know. I've never heard of these words before being associated with me. I don't even know what this word is because Gallup might have made it up. So we want to share that report with a couple of people that we trust that care about us, and get some feedback. And so this is a great way to do that. In addition to that, especially for college students, if I click on the certificate creator, there's a nice little flash program that allows you to print out a top 5 placard, if you will. You actually have the opportunity to create a door hanger, for those students that are in Res Life. You can create a door hanger. In fact, we know a lot of educators just have them go straight to this place on the site, create a door hanger, and have those so that everybody else on the floor has the opportunity to know what your top 5 are. There's a postcard and a vertical certificate, another different format. So that's another option in that share piece. And those are 2 great ways to get your themes out there and get some feedback. Next is the Success tab, and I've actually filled in some information on that, but it just provides you with some questions that kind of help you begin to think about and to reflect on how you've used your strengths in the past. And that's another kind of key element to the developmental process or cycle that we want to have folks initiate. And so we want them thinking about their strengths in light of where they've used them in the past. It's a great way to affirm those strengths in you, is to be able to connect them to moments that you've been successful in the past, and might be little, might be big, doesn't really matter. It just helps you to begin to collect those. I think the other thing, especially in working with a lot of people that are in career services, is that one of the things that one of the skills or the talent skills, let's say that, skills and knowledge that students need to develop while they're working through their undergrad degree is the ability to create narratives around when you were good at something. And it's not something that we practice a lot. It feels a lot like bragging, and so I think folks tend to try to take the humble route. And some others, others might even tell you, hey, tone it down a little bit there. But in fact, it's really important for us to figure out how to describe when we're good at something, when we are, really hitting on all 8 cylinders, when we have the potential to be fantastic and wildly successful at something. And we need to practice being able to tell those stories and create those narratives. They're ones that are going to eventually end up on our LinkedIn page or in a resume if we're still using those in a few years. And so this is a way to start thinking about that, initiate that, and begin to start practicing it. The next one is apply. Again, great resources. What we did was we basically extracted all the action items from the books, from 3 different books. And the first one is the StrengthsQuest book, so it's all the action items from StrengthsQuest. So you don't have to dig through the HTML or PDFs or the entire chapters, and instead we have the action items, the student action items, kind of just loaded right in there based on your 5 themes. And it's really nice because it also provides you the opportunity to select, deselect, and then print a subset of those themes. So it goes through the affirming and developing themes, more general. Then it gets more specific into you as a student. So there's the general academic, student techniques, study techniques, relationships, class selection, extracurricular activities, etc. And we're going to be adding to that. We're going to be supplementing that and actually providing more specific action items around leadership and career development here just in the near future. But that's a great resource. It's a great place to be able to go and build. And for educators, it's a great place to send students to select a couple of action items to practice with. So one of the things that we want to encourage educators to do with students once they've received their top 5 report is to do something with it. Go and apply now. Get with it. One of the things that we typically think about in terms of StrengthsFinder in comparison to other personality assessments that are out there is that StrengthsFinder was designed with the idea in mind that we were going to help you be able to get to that place where you can take action and apply the strengths that you possess in a way that allows you to be more successful. And so it is a lot about application. It's not just about having a definition or a description of maybe something that is maybe totally accurate to who your personality is, but instead moving beyond that to the point where we're applying it and actually getting something done. And so that's where that application tab comes in. Beyond that, there's some questions that we ask in terms of thinking about your themes in terms of relationships, and then the last one is just that full resource of all of the chapters of the book available in HTML and PDF format. Hey, one other thing which we provide an advertisement for here right on the left-hand side is this team talent map. If you're not at an educational institution that is requiring you to be regularly be assigned to work groups and partnerships with your peers and fellow students, then they're behind the times. And so what we tried to do with this is just provide an additional tool that students might use when they get assigned to work on a team. So again, that might be happening inside the classroom, and as well that might be within the context of student activities, and maybe you joined a particular student organization, and now you're on an executive team within that student organization. Well, you can go back and you can build just by a drag and drop menu. You can build a top 5 report of all your team members. And what's nice is that right there on that switch, you have the opportunity to either do that alphabetically, or you can actually turn it on and have the themes rearranged based on the 4 domains of our leadership book. And so there you can, even specifically in that leadership context where you're working on a leadership team, you can look at the themes as they're sorted over those 4 domains of executing, influencing, relationship building, and strategic thinking. So kind of a nice way to do that. We also tried to arrange it where it would print on one page and be convenient that way for you as well. Let's see. I think we worked on making sure that you could actually let's see. I can't remember what the maximum number of participants can be, but within a reasonable number, you can actually do your entire class. There might be 20, 25 students. You can do all 25 and create a team map of an entire class. So that's a nice resource as well. Yeah, let's see here. I'll go back. So I just wanted to share those five, and again, just kind of real quick way to introduce strengths development to folks, and and help them be able to take a look at that. Before we had talked about this, let's see, this admin site, and I was going to try to find that real quick for folks so they could take a look. Team tab, there, admin tab, of course, under the admin tab, and right there are some groups that I have been assigned the administrator for. So I can click one of those and then actually bring up all the participants that were in that particular event, and actually look at, and then manipulate those. You can download them in as a CSV file and manipulate them in Excel or whatever you want to do. But it's a nice little feature, especially for those folks that have a lot of codes that they need to take care of. All right.
Excellent.
Good. So Jim, if I wanted to drop back out of here, what do I need to do?
Just either close that window, I think, and then to hit the stop button and the above
Excellent.
there. We'll bring you back up on the main screen. Anything else you want to cover? We're
well, the one thing that I wanted to finish up, since I went ahead and started it, was the strengths rules. So we talked about knowing your strengths is not enough. Some other insights that Shane was able to draw out of these research projects that have been done over the years included strengths development is aimed at a personally salient goal. And I'll admit it, I had to look up what salient means. You know what salient means? I'm not going to put you on the spot.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm not going to put you on the spot. It's one of those academic things, I think. But basically, it's a goal that's important to you. And, as soon as you say it in those words, the guy's, wow, yeah, that makes total sense. When we're first working with students and we're helping them develop around the strengths, one of the things that we want to do, and we always want to think about is we're going to reach that student and they're going to recognize the value of applying their strengths and developing their strengths over time if they see it applied in something that's important to them. And so I think that's why it's really important for us to figure out, have that conversation as well. And that, again, that points back to Strengths Development 101, is that probably the best thing that StrengthsFinder has ever done, in terms of an individual's development, is it creates the opportunity for an awesome conversation. And so you have prepared educators or even well-trained peers. We have a lot of college students that end up being strengths coaches on their campuses as well. But facilitating an opportunity for a student that's just been introduced to strengths to have a great conversation with someone that's going to help affirm those strengths and then also challenge them to apply those strengths to a salient goal, a goal that's important to them, is just a great first step, first couple of steps for a student. Beyond that, development takes tremendous effort, and I think that's the other thing that we've always got to recognize, is that what I would like to see, and I think what is indicative of the best strengths programs that we have across the country now, are ones in which students keep touching this again and again and again in different settings and in different situations on their campus. And the more those opportunities come up and the more they're challenged to think about their strengths in continually complex and challenging ways, conflict resolution. What is that? What does strengths mean in the context of conflict resolution? Well, it's not a fun thing, trying to resolve conflict, but it is that, kind of more advanced and, and certainly having a set of expectations of the student that we didn't have when they first got their top 5 report as a freshman. The last one is that strengths grow in the context of relationships, teams, and organizations. So the more educators have the opportunity to expose students to strengths in the context of working with others, that's strengths development. And not only that, but it also begins to prepare them for life after college, which is where most of these students are headed. Most of them are not going to end up staying on the college campus in that environment. They need to be prepared to be launched. And there's just not many jobs out there, set aside maybe hermit, that you're not going to have that you're not going to be working with people. You're joining, quote, an organization. And so whatever size of that organization might be, and it might be you going out and being an entrepreneur and starting your own organization, but very quickly it's going to involve other people. And you're going to need to be able to work with those resources and to be able to understand and appreciate the strengths of others and move from there. So it's preparation for life after college. And I think those 4 strengths rules are ones that are great ones to live by, and great ones especially to design strengths development programs for college students on the campus.
All right, very good. Some great stuff in there. I've been here 7 years. I've never walked all the way through the StrengthsQuest site, which is a first for me, so that's great. However, Mark, I got to tell you, oftentimes early on, especially when I first started working here, and I was searching for strengths resources on Google, StrengthsQuest ranks very high in SEO for those kinds of things because we make a lot of those products available. They're open, they're easy to find, and so they're very similar to all the things we do on the Strengths Center side. So you can use those. There's great materials. I've got a group of high school kids. I'm actually going to come back and grab some of this material and start working through the books. So I was like, wow, this is available. It's all open. You saw me. I wasn't logged in. I was able to download it. So it's one of those deals where that should work for me. So anything else? Any last thoughts? We'll probably do another one of these. It'd be great to spin up some more of this and keep talking, but anything else as we close it?
Great. Nope, I think that's about it. I'll dig around and figure out what would be another topic that might be worthwhile for folks to be able to take a look at.
Yeah, might be good to interview somebody as well. So if you've got somebody.
Oh yeah, great idea. Yep, we'll get on that.
We could do that as well. Well, great. Well, we want to say thanks for listening, and we want to remind everyone to take full advantage of all the resources we have available. You saw StrengthsQuest.com. We also have GallupStrengthsCenter.com. You can send your questions to us. If you send those questions to us, coaching@Gallup.com, put StrengthsQuest in the title so that we know where to get that routed to when you do that. I think also StrengthsQuest@Gallup.com might work as well. Does that, do you know?
Yeah, I believe so.
I think it does as well. Coaching@Gallup.com works as well. Of course, you can find all the videos that we do here at Gallup they're available on our coach's website. Coaching, and you don't have to be a coach to get to the website. Just head out there. All of our resources are out there. We're trying to help you, so coaching@Gallup.com, a whole nother set of resources that are available for you. We have StrengthsFinder.
Jim, let me put a plug in there for that because I have been going to the coaching site myself. I've been going to those resources that he just described, and even if you're not in the role of a coach, maybe you're an educator and you're just using it in the classroom. You don't have any desire to have those one-on-one conversations, although they'll probably happen to you, irregardless if you're intending for it to happen or not. But what I would say is that there's some amazing resources on that site that go way beyond just a really finite definition of coaching, and in a broader sense, I would think that it is the StrengthsFinder resource site. Much of it, specific to coaching, and a lot of great conversations with a lot of great coaches. But there's other resources as well, and I think we mentioned it on the last session, the Kurt's project around doing Theme Thursdays, and you can't find a better resource for understanding a particular theme. And I don't know, how close are we to getting all 34 themes, Jim?
We're about halfway. We work every other Thursday, so we'll be done in 2015 doing them. So we're halfway through, and we'll record 15 or so more.
I learned a lot. I learned a lot
Good.
going and in listening to those. Really enjoyed them. They're really compelling, interesting, and just win some recording. So go there, take a look at those resources.
Well, thanks for that endorsement. We just recorded one today, so input was today, and had a great time. It was way more exciting than I thought it was going to be, and so you can head those. Those are all available at the coaching site. Don't forget we have StrengthsFinder apps for both Android and iPhone now, and so if you can't remember what your top 5 are, you can log in with that and get I encourage you to take a screenshot of it and then make it your lock screen, so you don't even have to log into your phone to remember what your top 5 are as well. And then if you're wondering, we do have some coaching available, or some coaching courses and some other courses available if you wanted to get trained by Gallup. Those are at the Gallup Strengths Center. Head over there and hit courses, and there's all kinds of those going on around the world. We want to thank you for joining us today. Check back with us. Hopefully we'll have some more of these coming around StrengthsQuest and some of Mark's work that he's done, maybe some interviews as well. For that, we'll say thanks for listening.
Thanks.